Good evening. Welcome to Sunday at 7. I'm so glad you're here. This is our relaxed Sunday space. It's a chance to wind down the weekend, share stories, and enjoy good company. Each week, we'll share stories, reflections, and plenty of friendly conversation, all in a relaxed Sunday atmosphere. Pop a hello in the chat, grab yourself a brew and settle in. I will love hearing your thoughts as we go along. Let's get started with this week's Sunday at 7. Hi, good evening, welcome. Hi Kelsey love. Dom, good evening. Sharon, hi. And good evening, Paul. So, as my, I've forgotten what I've called it now, tonight's stream. I'll have to have a look because I can't remember. Anyway, tonight's stream came about because I listened to Levi's stream last week about his members' music, where they were, they all could put in a request, and he was only playing requests. And some of the music brought back memories. Not the banging music, but some of the music did. So it got me thinking about how music has affected my life, but I presume it affects everybody's life in a similar way. So, Bibi, are you I can't see you in the chat, but your name's there. So I presume you are. If you are, good evening. Oh, you are. Echoey. Right. Let me just make sure I've got the right microphone on. Yeah. So let me just see if I can turn it up a little bit. Anyway, there we go. Hopefully that's a bit better. But I'm not going to mess about because I want to get on and get on with what I've been thinking. So, like I say, I was watching Cheggs's members only stream last week, and it played lots of music, and people were putting in their requests, and he was playing them. And like I say, it brought back memories for me of my music through the 7 decades that I've been on this earth. And I can't remember exactly everything, but there is certain titles of music that bring back a memory for me. And YMCA. Anyway, yeah. So, Beach Blog, good evening. I don't know who you are, but good evening. Clary, good evening. And if I don't catch everybody coming into the stream, I do apologise because I can't multitask. Everybody will know I can't multitask. So, let me go on to my story as such. There's one piece of music that hasn't been with me all my life, but it had a big impact on my life. And in 1991, the end of July 1991, my mum suffered, I don't know what, it was a bit like a stroke, but I don't think it was a stroke. Anyway, she ended up in hospital. in Bridlington. And I used to go every morning and every afternoon to visit her to see how she's doing. And I could see over the period of 3 weeks, she was gradually getting worse and worse and worse. And so, of course, you know, you let the hospital know what your number and whatever to get in touch if anything's happening or whatever. And however, on a Friday morning, and I can't remember the exact date, it's in the back of my mind somewhere, but on the Friday morning, I got my telephone rang at 4:30 in the morning. And they said, this really nice nurse said, you know, hi, Paul, sorry to get you up, but we think you should come to see your mother because we don't think there's going to be long left. And anyway, so I jumped in the car, and I don't know if anybody's heard me on previous occasions talking about my white knight or my my angel. And my white knight or angel is a lad called Neil, who was my DJ, and we'd been not together as a couple, but together as working, and we did live together and work together, and we had a good relationship. Anyway, he couldn't drive, by the way, but he jumped in the car at the same time as me because he could see I was upset. And I said, right, we're going to the hospital, so you'll have to sit in the car, matey, while I go in and see what's happening. So she said, yeah, no problem. She said, I'm just going to put some music on, just, because I can see it a little bit, whatever. Anyway, as we're driving along, I was about 10 minutes to go before I got to the hospital. And on the radio came this song by Michael Ball. And it was from the show Aspects of Love. And it was called Love Changes Everything. And, I was driving along, I was upset, but I could hear the music and I could hear the words. And the words seemed to jump out of the radio and give me a hug, basically. Made me feel a little bit better. And so I got to the hospital, went in to see my mum, and 3 hours later she passed. But, so that piece of music, whenever I hear it, it doesn't affect me as much nowadays as it used to when I was, back 20 years or so. 20 years. If I heard the music 20 years ago, I would be in tears and whatever. It doesn't affect me that way now. What it does do is it takes me back to that time when, the love of a son and the love of a mother. And, there wasn't only me there. There was all my siblings were there, and other people in the family were there. We were all there at the time. But that piece of music has stuck in my mind, and whenever I hear it, that's where it takes me. It takes me back to that Friday morning, beginning of August time, to Bridlington Hospital, and that sad moment in my life. And so, of course, like I was saying, how music can trigger things in your head. I don't know what the technical terms are. People will say, oh, it does this for your morphines and intermorphines or whatever they're bloody called. But it does, and it's there, and it's a memory that I'll never forget, and the music brings it back. And I'm not saying that I do forget my mother, but the memory of the music brings that straight back into my head. So, of course, like I was listening to Cheggs and his broadcast last week, I heard a couple of records or tunes or whatever you want to call them, singers, that were in my past. And I'm sat here and I'm forgetting the camera's there, and I'm looking over there because my mother's sat behind me on the thing, and I feel like I'm talking to her when I should be talking to you. So anyway, so if we get back to the early 60s, my very first record, a vinyl record I purchased, was Lonnie Donegan. Don't know if anybody's heard of Lonnie Donegan, but I was stuck on Lonnie Donegan. He wasn't a 60s chap, he was from the 50s, but he hit me in the 60s. And, there were songs like Does Your Chewing Gum Lose Its Flavour on the Bedpost Overnight? Really tickled a thing inside. It was funny. But there was lots of his records, and I think over a period of 6 or 7 months, I might have purchased 8 or 9 of his records. And my mum used to tell me off for ever playing them. She said it's not my kind of music. So, but I still played it. And then I managed to acquire a little, I was going to say a wind-up gramophone, but it wasn't. It was a little record player, really, really small thing. And it would only take, it was only big enough to take a 7-inch vinyl record, and you had to do it one at a time. It wasn't all this highfalutin shit. It was just a little bog standard little box plugged into the power and thing. And so, of course, I took it up into my room, because by that time I had a room of my own in the house, because all my siblings, well, all the male siblings had left home by then. So, so I had a room to myself. So the way I think it was a record, I'm fairly certain cost about 6pence. I don't know what arguably, I don't know what 6pence is nowadays. It would probably be a 100th of a penny. I don't know, but it was 6pence. And of course, my mother was single and bringing up the family, and she didn't have lots of money. So I used to go to earn my money as a 10 and 11-year-old to try and so I could purchase my records. I used to go what they call case carrying. So at the weekends, I used to go to the local railway station and carry cases for the comforts, the people who were coming for a week and staying in the town for their holiday, their week's holiday. I used to go carry the case to, the hotels, guest houses, stuff like that. But I'd get paid for doing it. Now, you probably, I'd probably get 2 bob or something, 2 shillings. But when I got home on a night, I'd have about 10, 11 shillings. which purchased what I wanted during the week, basically. So Saturday morning paid for what I wanted during the week. And what I wanted was some more records. I didn't go silly because not everything appealed to me. But I come off Lonnie Donegan and I went on to a group called the Swinging Blue Jeans. And when I started playing their songs, my mum's eyes lit up. And she said, "Oh, this is a little bit better. I like this. I like these. These are good." And so, of course, then it was a case of, "Oh, can you put this, Paul, just put that record on, that one you've got of them blue jean people." Anyway, a bit later on, afterwards she'd got hooked on these Swinging Blue Jeans. She said, "Oh," one Saturday night, she said, "Oh, I'm going to Scarborough tomorrow. I'm going to Scarborough tonight with a couple of friends." And I said, "Oh, that'd be nice for her," because she didn't go out a lot. She was always working. However, she said, "Yeah, we're going to Scarborough." So I said, "Oh, that'd be nice." She said, "Yeah, we're going to go and watch the Swinging Blue Jeans." I said, "Well, you cheeky bugger." Well, I didn't say bugger because she'd have cracked me ear all. So there's me buying all the records and there's her going to go and bloody see them. She didn't say, "Do you want to come?" I presume I must have been a little bit too young for that, but there you go. So she pops to see the Swinging Blue Jeans. And, more in the 60s and Lonnie Donegan, Swinging Blue Jeans. I wasn't a Beatles fan. I don't know why, but the Beatles music didn't touch the thing, that little thing in your head, it didn't. I wasn't a big Beatles fan. And yeah, I've just totally lost the plot when I said about the Beatles. Anyway, so I was trying to remember the next one. It was a Skipple group. And I'm trying to remember who was in this Skipple group that I used to listen to. And the reason I got into Skipple was up in one of the local pubs up in where I lived. In one of their back rooms, they used to have a country music night. And they allowed children in. So, of course, I went because the music was, it wasn't head banging, it wasn't all that kind of stuff. And, of course, you could sing if you could get up and sing. And, of course, a 12, 13-year-old lad who had the voice of an angel, because the time hadn't come for me for my voice to break. That was a bit later in life. And so, of course, I had a decent voice, and I knew all the Skipple stuff, and I knew other, and a few of the other music that they would play. So, of course, that appealed to me and it appealed to others. And yeah, I enjoyed the time. And I'm trying to, in the back of my head, I'm trying to remember which pub it was, what the pub was called in Brid. But we had a place in Brid called the High Street, up in the old town of Bridlington. And as far as I can remember, there must have been 20 boozers on that street. Because it was I was going to say it was a busy place, but it was a busy place. pubs were busy in those days. So then, of course, the voice broke and I had a croaky voice, so I couldn't sing as well as I used to sing. So that went by the by. And because I was so embarrassed about my voice breaking, I didn't go anymore to the music, which I regret nowadays because I should have carried on, really. But you know, we all do things in life that you think later on, you shouldn't have gone that way. You should have gone instead of taking that road on the off the junction. You should take that road off the junction. You know, we all have these paths to take, and some of us take the wrong path, some of us take the right path. And sometimes you might think you're on the right path and you're on the bloody wrong path. But there you go. Hoggy boy, good evening. Why, yes, good evening. There you go. Yeah, so that was the 60s, you know, and it wasn't only, I wasn't only Lonnie Donegan swinging blue jeans and stuff like that. There were lots of others. Can't think of the names now, but there were lots. So again, and it's not often I do hear those songs anymore. But Hoggy, good evening. But when I do, again, it takes me back to my youth when I was a teenager, and of course, in the early 60s, when I was a teenager, it was that time when music was changing, you know. And I don't know how to explain it, but you know, Elvis and those type and Cliff and you know the rock and roll people. Yeah, Hoggy, I bet I was. But there you go. Yeah, those days it was the hill. You know, the music was changing from one era to another because my mum used to, you know, besides the swinging blue jeans, she didn't like the Beatles and she didn't like Elvis or Cliff. She liked Cliff later on in life, but not early doors like. So things were changing, and in I don't know if anybody knows Bridlington, but there's a place in Bridlington down on the front which is called the Spa Royal Hall. It's still there, and if you've ever been, you'll know it's got a huge dance floor, massive. And they used to, at the Spa Royal Hall, they used to hold dances, old-fashioned dances, if that's, you know, if that's the right term, old-fashioned dancing. Mum used to always go. Well, I'm not saying she always went, but Mum was a dancer and she enjoyed that type of thing. So she would go to the Spa Royal Hall on a Saturday night for dances. And then mid-60s, I don't know if it was a council or whatever, but the Spa decided they were going to put on discos for the younger end on a Friday night. And I can't remember how much it cost to get in, but all those teenagers hit the Spa for these Friday night discos, which they call discos. It was a spinning silvery ball thing, you know, don't know what you call them, but and a few flashing lights and a geezer that you never saw playing records. None of this, like Chase does, talking, and there were none of that. It was just, this is the Big Bopper, away you go. This is Elvis, disco. But it was a disco to us as kids, because as young teenagers, because of course it meant that you could, I don't know how to put it, score. It was full of women, girls. And I don't know whether I should be saying girls nowadays, because somebody might come along and say, oh yeah, there he goes, talking about bloody girls, he's a bacon. Well, I'm not. But there you go. So, Hoggy, I was born in 1951, mate. So, the Saturday nights were the discos. And it was, I don't know how to explain what it was, but it was just a big place. And like I say, if you know it, it was just a big, huge room. But the music was good. Yeah, I think it's the light. I've got the wrong light on, mate. Sorry. I haven't blue rinsed it. No, I haven't blue rinsed it. It's the light. So, of course, I've lost the plot now because I'm looking to see if I've got a blue rinse. But there you go. Yeah. So it wasn't, Hoggy, I don't really, because football was not my scene in 1967. Girls were my scene in 1967. However, didn't get any of those in 1967 because I was in the army at the time. And that was it. Spiky, good evening. So there you go. So back to 64, 65, 66, that was the kind of music. And there was a lot more, there was and like I say, I can't remember everything. It's just some bits come back to me when I, especially when I hear them, but trying to remember them all. And I've made a few notes on my other screen here so that I have something to get it going. Sorry, Oggy, I can't go into it because, unfortunately, football wasn't my scene in the 60s. However, it changed later on into the 70s, but we can go on to that later on at another time. So, 64, 65, 66 was the music. And there's lots of music that I still hear nowadays that will take me back to when I was 15, 16 years old. And of course, as you go through your life, your taste in music will change. I'm not saying that you don't like what you liked then, but it changes. You find others and think, other things to follow and other things to listen to. And before I go on to that kind of music, I want to just say there's one common thread all the way through my life that's never, ever altered on the music scene. Ever. It's not. And I don't know how to explain how I got into classical music. But it was I was watching something on the television, because they did have stuff on the TV in those days. Not often, but they did. and some of the music in the background, got me thinking, who the hell is this? Because it wasn't that rock and roll music. It was music. Anyway, so I went to the local record shop and I said, do you know that program that's on TV at the moment called, and I can't remember the name of it. And he said, yeah, I watched that. Yeah, it's good. I said, do you know what that music is in the background? He says, yeah, I do. And he got me this big LP. I've never seen a bloody LP. I'd only seen 7-inch discs. And of course, an LP, couldn't put it on my record player at home because it wouldn't fit. So he said, here, I'll go into that booth and I'll put it in. I'll put it on for you. So I went into this booth and lo and behold, this music came on. And it started up and I went out and I said, that's not it. He said, it is. Just go listen a little bit longer and you'll see. And then anyway, I listened a bit longer and there comes the music that had, got the juices flowing. And from then, I got into it more, so, and that stayed with me all the time. And now I don't know how old I am, I'm 70-something. I always tell everybody I'm 75, but I don't think I am. I'm round about that bloody age. However, every morning when I get up, besides making the coffee and the coffee, whatever, the first thing I do when I get into the lounge, the sitting room, or whatever you call it, after I've got my coffee, is I say to my Google chat thing, I can't remember what you call them, I've got a Google chat, and I say, hey, Google. I'm not going to say it because it'll start rabbiting in the background. Hey, I'm up, and it'll say, good morning, Paul, it's 7:15. You've got this on today, that on today. This is in your diary, that's in your diary, those type of things. And then they say, and then it asks me what do you want to listen to today, and I just say Classic FM from Global Player, and it's on, and I listen. It's there in the background all day. So I've got classical music in the background all day. Now, when I was young, in the background, it was the radio. It was Radio Caroline was in the background a lot because that was where you could listen to up-to-date music that the BBC wouldn't bloody play, because the BBC had a channel, I think it was called The Light Programme. To take it from me, it was bloody light. It was light and loads of stuff, but it didn't play up-to-date music. It didn't play our music, my generation's music. It just played my mum's generation music. But there was a pirate radio called Radio Caroline, and that was broadcast from a ship 12 miles out to sea in the North Sea. You see, I'm still talking to my mother, and I should be talking. I do apologise. I'm not ignoring you. I should be talking to you, and I'm not. I'm talking to my mother there. And so this radio station, pirate radio station, was 12 miles out to sea in the North Sea there, and they used to play all the music you wanted. And then, of course, there was another music one that we used to listen to on I don't know if it was a Friday or a Saturday night. Might have been a Sunday night. I can't remember what night it was, but they used to do a program, and I can't remember the exact term, but it was the top 20. They played the top 20 records for that week, and that was from a radio station called Radio Luxembourg. So, of course, we listened to that on a Saturday or Sunday night, and you listen to Radio Caroline all the other time. So if anybody, looks up Radio Caroline, you'll see some of the people who were big. Not only they weren't that big in those days, but they were big in these days. Started on Radio Caroline. And I'm trying to remember the guy who Tony Blackburn started on Radio Caroline. He was one of the first DJs on there. So we used to listen to that a lot. And I'm just looking through the chat just to see if I'm missing anybody. Don't think I am. But yeah, so the rock and roll era, that was rock and roll. It sounds so cliche, doesn't it? The rock and roll era. Yeah, I don't think anybody could imagine me rock and roll. But I can remember going to the spa and getting on the dance floor, and I'm trying to remember the song "Twist and Shout," and you used to be there with it doing the twist right down on. I can't do it now because if I got down doing the twist, I'd never get bloody back up again. But that was that's one song that can stick in my head. So I wasn't ever a big dancer, I was more of a smooth talking twat than a dancing guy, So rather than going into the corner to try and chat up the girls by asking them if they wanted to dance, I would go and use different lines because I was a little bit smoother in those days. Anyway, that's way off the point. I'm not going that way. I'm not going down that channel. I'm going down this channel, and it's the music channel I'm going down. So, like I say, I was listening to Chegsy on his members only broadcast, and he did a couple of songs that hit memories for me, and the 60s and of course 65 I left home and went and joined the army, so I didn't have a chance after that basically for 5 years or whatever to hone my skills on women because it was all men, and we were training to be bloody killers. So they told us. Anyway, so of course, as I went through my early army career, my taste in music started to change, and I can't remember exactly what the years were, but there's lots of people from. I was in the army from 1965 to 1975, so of course there was again another big change in music in that decade, basically, and 2 or 3 groups within there, or singers, or whatever you want to call them, within there, ring out in my head. Of course, the best, and no arguments, they weren't the best, was Queen. It's what a band! What a band was Queen! But you know, they weren't the only one. Bowie was absolutely fantastic. But the thing with Bowie is he kept changing his persona. You know, so one week he'd be one thing, and then another week he'd be covered in bloody makeup, and he'd be Ziggy Bloody Stardust, and you've no idea where and when was happening with him. But he was still good. He was still cracking music. Spandau Ballet, another one, cracking music. But there's lots of them round about that time, you know. In that decade of that kind of music. And trying to think of some others that you know got the juices flowing with me. I wasn't into don't know how to put it really, but I wasn't anyway. But you know, I like the other thing I liked in the 70s was, you know, I don't know if you call it ballads, you know, the slow ballad type music, and just trying to think of who there was that had that type of music. So give you an idea of where my brain is at that moment in time. And it was Neil Diamond was one. What's the guy with the big nose? He's about 110 now. I saw him on telly the other day. At the Copacabana. What was his name? Barry Manilow. He was another one. You know, his type of music hit the spot for me because it was the words. You know, the words with the music was what attracted me. And you know, but there was lots like them too. Neil Diamond, Barry Manilow. The Big Bopper was another one. He was more banging, rattling music, but he still had music that you could understand. Buddy Holly, there's another one. Buddy Holly, what a fantastic singer Buddy Holly was, and the music was good. And again, he sung from the heart, and he sung what you could understand. You know, you could understand the words because they could attach to you. What he was singing was what was in your heart or in your head or whatever, because you got the words. And so there were lots of people in the 70s. Too many to mention, but again, if I hear them on the radio, it takes me back to a moment in time, you know, to where I was at this moment in time. Now, I can't remember what I was. It's going to sound awful, but I was searching on the internet the other day for something, and I can't remember what it was. But I was searching for a group, and I couldn't remember what the group was. But what I could remember was a line from one of their songs. And the line was, "She leapt up and down and waved her knickers in the air." And whenever I hear the song, I know exactly where I was when I first heard that record. And I was in a pub that I used to run in a little village just outside York called the Squirrels Inn. The Squirrel wasn't in, you know, it was the Squirrels Inn, INN. And we used to have a disco on a Friday night in this pub. And that was one of the records that was played. And like I say, if I heard it, if somebody played it today, I would know where I was at that moment in time, because that piece of music takes me back to that moment in time. So that's how music can influence your life. How it can calm you down, because there's nothing, I can tell you now, there is nothing better to get you out of a dark place than, and it's going to sound really cheesy and awful, but listening to some smooth classical music, because it hits the spot, it calms you down, and anyway, it calms me down, and it's always calmed me down. It's and I've had some upsetting times in my life, and classical music has taken me through those bad times. When back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or whatever, I didn't always have classical music playing. I do now, but I didn't in those days. But I did go to it if I felt, a bit down, or I don't know how to word what I mean, but it brings you out into a really nice place where you need to be in your life. So if you're down in your life, get some classical music on, and just play it in the background. Listen, you don't have to listen to it. Just have it going in the background. It'll calm you down. It'll bring you down. It'll help with your mental health, because it does. Music soothes the savage breast. So there you go. I read that the other day. I've heard it before, but I read it the other day. And there you go. It does. Music can do that for you. And I'm just trying to remember. Not all classical music will do it for you. Something like Beethoven's 18th, 12th, or won't bring you down. It'll put you up there. I presume everybody knows what the 1812 overture is, but it's a bit bump. Whereas something like Dvořák, New World Symphony, you can't beat it. You can't beat Dvořák's New World Symphony. And you'll all know, you'll all say, oh, bloody classical music, not listening to that shit. But you'll all know the New World Symphony, because if you've ever watched the Hovis ad on the TV, the music in the background is Dvořák's The New World Symphony. That's where that cut of music comes from. And I know when you watch that Hovis bread advert, I don't know if it's still on TV, but everybody will know what I'm talking about. When you watch that, it calms you down. It's a calm thing. And that's what the music, it isn't the advert that's calming you down. It's the music in the advert that's calming you down. Spiky, it is tonight, mate, because I've got the wrong light on and I'm not pissing about changing the lights. So I do apologise if my hair looks blue, but you're just going to have to live with it. But my mum used to have blue hair like this. She used to have to go to the hairdressers to get it for a blue rinse. But mine's from a blue light up there. And I'm not changing it. It's too... By the time I've got it done, it'll be time to finish. So where are we? Where are we? Yeah, so like I've said, it's... Levi, music is good for the soul. It really is. And whatever your music is, it's good for you. Because we all have different tastes. And like I've said before, I never once appreciated Levi's music. Not once. And he had done some, and he'd sent me a couple of links that I listened to for a little while and thought, nah, it's not for me. But over the past 18 months, my taste has changed. I've got to like the music. I don't seek it out to play, but when it's playing on when Chegs is playing it, I do sit and listen. I watch all of his broadcasts, and I do listen. Sometimes I'll say hello, but most times I just sit in the background, click the like, and listen to him talking and the music. Because, like I say, sometimes something will come in and it'll trigger a memory. So that's my link all the way through my life, was being this classical music that's intertwined all the way through my life. 7 decades, and I've had it from 14 years old till now, 60 years later, and I still listen to it. So there you go. Now, Chuck Berry. Now there's a cracker. Chuck Berry. Wow. There's some words in this chat that I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll just forget it. But yeah, so everybody likes music. Yeah. So there you go. Everybody likes music, and your taste in music can change. And as if you've listened to what I've said for the past 50 minutes or so, you can see that my music has changed. Because when in the when I was 8, 9 years old, the music was what my mum listened to, and a song's just popped into my head, and my mum used to love it, and it was called the singer was called Slim Whitman, and the record she used to play it all the time, Slim Whitman, and it was Rosemary was the song. And yeah, so there you go. Chuck Berry, where's he come? No, Chuck Berry's come from that, but whereas I've forgotten who I've just said it was. Anyway, I don't know where that one's come from. But saying that, I should know where it's come from, because my second wife, she also was into that kind of music. That's why my mum liked her so much, because even though, she was my age, she liked my mum's type of music. Now I can remember every Sunday afternoon, you see on me wick, quite honestly, but every Sunday afternoon, she used to stick on a couple of LPs of Slim Whitman. There you go. That was a Sunday afternoon. So anyway, we come back to a little bit closer to my age group now, but I was trying to come around with how music has changed through my life, and I'm just looking at my notes, because I've got some notes here that are trying to me get my juices flowing of such. So, yeah, music can give you memories that are good memories. You know, we've all got good memories. We've all got bad memories. But music can basically put you through both of those, through the good and through the bad. You know, so you can reflect on things later in life when you hear something and you think, "Oh, that was a bad time in my life," or whatever. But it doesn't have to be the bad side of that. Now, I don't know how to put it across so it doesn't come across so stupid, really. But anyway, folks, just to recap a little bit, I don't know if I've explained it well enough, you'll know what I mean. But just to go through it a bit, music is the thread all the way through your life, and it has been through my life, and hopefully there's many more years of my life to go. But the music is always there, and you know, it can be joyful. It can be sad. It can be love. It can be hate. It can be all those things in one. Just different bits of music, different things will bring those emotions out. And the key line for that, of course, is, and I'm going to read this because I wrote it earlier, so I don't forget it. But the key line is, the music never really leaves us, even when the people do. And you know, that's what it is. It never lets you go. It never leaves you. It'll be there forever. And you know, you'll have seen these programs on TV where people have got Alzheimer's and all that, and yet play them some music and they're straight back in those days, or they can, you know, they can sing the song. And good evening, Tom. And Roy Orbison, Roy Orbison was absolutely the man. And you can't beat Roy Orbison, can you? Elvis was okay, but Chuck Berry was all right. But Orbison was your man. He sang from the heart. He had everything. But there you go. And I'm trying to, I've looked at me notes here. They don't make bloody sense. But to come towards it, to come to the end, because we're nearly up to an hour, and if I bought the pants off you, well, I do apologise. But when I was thinking about doing this type of thing for my Sunday night, I thought, I wonder if I should actually play some of the music so that you get the gist of what I'm talking about. But I might. Ackerbilk. There's another look. Tom, what a man. Ackerbilk. Oh, you could listen to him all day. He was as smooth as a pound of butter. There you go. So, basically, my closing message, before, and this isn't my closing message, but it is before I say good night or whatever. And I've written this bit down again so I don't get it wrong. But when you hear a song that takes you back, let it play. And there you go. So let it play. So thanks for coming along. And I think what I might do during the week is I might just have a chat with Levi about how to get some of these music, some of these songs. I don't, I just want one or two, maybe an hour's worth of music that I can put in a playlist and actually upload. But I'm not going to do a live show. I'll do a compilation video. So, yeah. So, if you haven't there's the camera. If you haven't liked it, please put a like in the bottom down below. If you disliked it, please put the dislike in the down below. And the final thing is, please leave a comment. Put in the comment what kind of music has affected you. Throw some music out there. Miles Davis. You see, Tom's he's straight on the floor. He's in there. Get in, Tom. You're on the floor, mate. Where have you been for the past bloody hour? Don't mind about taking your missus out. You should be out with me. So it's 8 o'clock. As you can see up there, it's 8 o'clock. I've enjoyed the hour. I hope you've got something from what I was talking about. And it's brought a lot of memories to me. I've had a few sad memories as I'm talking, but the line in the song that has affected me most is "Love changes everything." And if you haven't heard that song, go and listen to it. It's from Aspects of Love. It's cracking. So tomorrow night, Bobby and Paul. I'm Paul. Bobby's the short, fat, hairy leg guy. I don't know. Is he bald? I don't know. Anyway, Bobby and myself will be on at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, this channel, and for Monday's Madness. And I've called it Monday's Madness because we sometimes I lose my rag, and sometimes I don't, but there. So, folks, I want to say live long and prosper, TTFN, and see you soon. Thank you. That's all for this week's Sunday at 7. Thank you so much for spending part of your Sunday evening with me. I really enjoy sharing these stories and chats with you, and I hope you'll join me next Sunday at 7 for more conversation and good company. If you've enjoyed tonight's stream, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment with any ideas or feedback. I'd love to hear from you. And if you'd like to catch up on previous episodes, you'll find them all in the Sunday at 7 playlist. Have a great week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.